don't know who I am, but I know all about you. I've come to talk to you tonight about the things I see. I've come to set the record straight. I've come to shine the light on you. Let me introduce myself. I am the cold hard truth. Okay, good evening, folks, and welcome to another segment of the Cold Hard Truth. I am your host, Sandy Hill. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And thank you for the DM. Robert says, yeah, me, first one here. Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it, guys. I miss you guys so much. Can I tell you? I'm still trying to recover from this cold, so you'll hear me coughing and stuff during this show. But, you know, I just had to take a break last week. My voice just could not handle it, and I thought initially I was only going to be taking Tuesday off, and then as it turned out, I ended up taking Tuesday and Thursday off because Thursday it got so bad I had to end up going to the clinic in Town just to try to get some relief. So I'm taking some antibiotics and stuff for the cough, and in addition to that, some good old-fashioned remedies, the honey and tea and garlic and all that good stuff. So I am feeling a little bit better, and I'm really hoping that I can knock this out really soon. But you guys know how it is. Like, it wasn't like a full-blown, like it wasn't a flu or anything, but it just is like lingering, and the cough is still there. So I have some stuff that I'm taking for that. But listen, the news doesn't stop, and a lot has been going on. So again, good evening to all of you. We have a lot of catching up to do, and a lot of things are happening. There's some things that I want to update you guys on. And, you know, it's going to be open mic tonight, so we're going to just talk about whatever. So let me just say hi to a few of you who are tuned in. Morna, thank you so much for tuning in. I know you guys are like regulars here. Sorry, Evelyn, of course she's going to be here. Says, welcome, good evening, welcome back. Thank you so much. She's wondering if it's a race. Well, I don't know if it's a race or not, but I know you guys are definitely excited to be here. So, man, there's so much has happened in the last week. Now, first of all, I'm working on a little surprise for you guys. I don't want to tell you yet because I really want it to be a surprise, but we're going to be doing something really, really exciting here that I think you guys will be interested in. And stay tuned for it. Just stay tuned for it. You know, here at Cayman Road, we're always trying to push the envelope to take it to the next step, to hopefully to hopefully, you know, just continue to improve on the platform that we have here. So stay tuned. We've got lots of great things coming your way. So great for those of you who are excited to be here. I really appreciate your support. Dave says, hi, good night. Juanita is here with us. Bobo, log on from West Bay. Hope you feel better soon. Thank you so much from the beautiful district of West Bay. While we're talking about West Bay, let me update you guys on what happened last week, Friday. So despite not really feeling my best, on Friday, I was in the district of West Bay for a number of hours, trying to get a grapple of what was going on with the Lissa lien situation. So as you guys will remember, this is the one with Mr. Will Mendoza and his wife, who essentially have decided that they would take a 45-year-old easement, cut the easement off, and make it their own. So Mr. Will had gotten some information early on the week before that they were going to be coming out, they being the NRA and the Lands and Surveying Department had done a site visit to put out the little markers. So if you've seen this picture that's on your screen, there is a marker right there by that gate. And so they went out and they did their initial markers and they spoke to Mr. Mendoza, who isn't employed and he's home all day long. And apparently he has a lot of time on his hands. And he decided that despite having this, understanding or knowledge that they were coming, he was still going to just be a proper pain in the you-know-what on Friday. So the NRA crew showed up on Friday. They were ready to go, had all their equipment, bulldozer, the backhoe, whatever they needed, all the staff there, sorry, with their machetes and their, what are the cutters called? The saws and everything, just ready to go. Well, Mendoza, being the real prick that he is, and I'm sorry for the language sometimes, but there's really no other way to describe this guy. He's a straight up ass. Decided that he was going to delay the process. So he started his shenanigans as usual, essentially blocking the path. So this was, I think, when he actually took his vehicle and blocked the pathway. He was standing up. You see this little, that's his gate, and this is on the left, I think, for your screen. It might be on the right. This is his driveway where his house is, and he has a speed bump there that he's put in. So on the one side, he put in this fancy, nice wall, and then he took an iron or a metal, what would you call that? Like, not a gate, but this metal piece that runs across. Anyway, he runs that across from one edge of his concrete fence or whatever that he's put up to the other edge, and he has it padlocked so that no one else can access it. And then on the opposite side, I don't think we have any pictures of that, but if you guys go back to Friday, you'll be able to see some of the videos because we're doing quite a few live stream sessions, right? So if you go back to Friday, you'll see that the back of the property, which is really where he was blocking. I mean, let me try and lay this out for you guys, right? Because this is just incredibly interesting to see exactly what he was doing here. So at the front of his property, which was just that picture that you saw, he has his wall and then the chain, right? The metal chain padlock. His house, and then to the back of his house, which would start the property line now to Mike Adams and his family, who've been there for 35 years, he has erected a fence. They used to have a property wall there. Now listen to how cheeky this man is. He knocked down their property wall. He actually had someone come. This is the same man who hasn't paid his tilers, hasn't even paid the people who built his fence. Like, he owes all kind of people for construction projects on the house. But he could find someone to knock down the Mike Adams wall that he had there for God knows how long, probably the 35 years that he was there. Knock down the wall, use the wall, the concrete, from the wall, to put in the foundation of his house that he then built. So talk about building your house on a crappy foundation of negativity. This is exactly what this man did. Property damage. The police are aware of this, and to this date, they've done nothing about it. So he knocked down Mike Adams's wall, uses that in his foundation. He erected a fence, like a metal fence. Then he put boards in the fence. And then on top of that, he had that padlocked. And in June, as you guys recall, when this kind of all hit the fan, he put these big boulders in front of the gate. So you have to go through boulders, the gate, which is then sort of reinforced with these pieces of plywood and locked as well. So there's no way that the Adams family could get through that. So when RA shows up on Friday, they're like, okay, we're here to get our job done. We're here to do it. You need to let us through. All of a sudden, Mr. Mendoza, and I should say that the only supporter he has in the neighborhood is Crosby Ebanks, an elderly Caymanian gentleman. So him and Crosby were there attempting to tell the police what it is that they needed to do. So that's what this picture is. That's him in the hoodie. And apparently, I don't know why he's always hiding, but he constantly wears a hoodie, sorry, when he comes outside. Like, he doesn't want people to see who he is, really. But Mendoza, trust me, we have seen your character. And then these other guys that you see behind him, these are actually guys from the Lands and Surveying Department. So he was telling them that they couldn't access his property, they couldn't come onto his property. Mind you, government since June, when we had the protests on location, government has now gazetted this and went through all the different documentation and processes required by law to make this a public road. So government is taking control of this. And right where you see Mendoza, like right in front of his house, that is going to now be a 24-foot public road. So, you know, again, he's a very duplicitous person, or as we say in common language, this man is like a Spanish machete. So he put his vehicle in the way at one point. So that's what this picture shows, refusing to move it. He delayed the start of them being able to clear the property by at least a couple hours. So NRA staff were sitting there like, what on earth? Police were called again. Police came out. They had the documentation then from the NRA, which they were provided by whoever on site was in charge of the whole NRA thing. So they provided them with the documentation to say, hey, we've done all that we need to do. But, you know, this man fancies himself apparently to be a Queen's Counsel. And so he's like, oh, well, Section 5 hasn't been done yet. And Section 5 says until government paves the road, it's not open to the public. So the rest of us who were there, sorry, his argument was, oh, we couldn't be there. Listen, we were not even paying him any attention. To be quite frank, we were not having it. I was ready to make a citizen's arrest. And I was very, very serious because the police officer said, listen, he's going to allow the NRA to do their job and to do what they have to do. But, you know, he's not going to interfere with the process. So despite Mendoza believing that the police would have been there to once again do what he wanted them to do, that really wasn't the case. So he got very, very upset. At one point, he claims that he was going to take his wife to work, which turns out to be a lie. She wasn't working on Friday. She took the day off to see all this shenanigans going on. And he ended up going to the police station and complaining to them that the officers on location were not doing their job. Their job, in his mind, obviously means whatever I tell you to do, you need to do. He claims that he had a court order. When the police officer said, well, sir, you need to produce this court order, because if you have that, then you need to produce it to me so that I can look at it. Although, again, the police are not litigants and they're not there to make any kind of a ruling. So it was kind of a bizarre situation, right? The NRA, a government entity, you're trying to say that government hasn't done their job correctly in terms of getting this road ready. They know what they're dealing with. They know the kind of person Mendoza is. Of course, government and the NRA and whoever else was involved in this process, lands and surveying, planning, whoever, would have crossed their T's and dotted their I's, because he's that type of person that you have to make sure that you do that with. You know, so it was a bit of a back and forth. Crosby was telling the police officer, oh, go call our lawyer, James Kennedy. He'll tell you what's going on. The police officer was like, listen, I'm not here to do any of that. I have this documentation from the NRA which says XYZ. That's what I'm going to go by, unless you have something to the contrary. Unless you have a court order saying the NRA is wrong and they can't be here today, you need to allow them to do their job. So the good news is, after a little bit of back and forth and tangling and whatever, the NRA started to clear the property, and they have knocked down his wall, I'm happy to say, and they have knocked down the fence, and they've taken out a lot of the trees and whatever that would have been in the way of this 24-foot public road, and they have started the process. So it's going to take them probably, I would say, another couple days to do what they have to do, and then they'll start the process of paving the road, etc. So we are certainly looking forward to that completion. I will let you guys know when the celebratory opening of that road will happen, because in my mind, that needs to be a big event, a big public showing, a big party in support of government actually stepping up and doing the right thing in this case. Now, interestingly enough, I had a politician say to me, yesterday that this should have never been a situation where government needed to step in. Like, the police or someone needed to enforce what was in place. But unfortunately, the police are saying, listen, if they don't have a specific order that says to arrest this man if he doesn't allow these persons their legal right of way, which has existed for 45 years, if they don't have an order making that an arrestable offense, the fact that he's blocking it, there's nothing that they can do because it is a civil situation. Meanwhile, this guy is just, wreaking havoc on the entire neighborhood. So solution is in place now. It is definitely happening. The fences and the walls have come down. The only thing that I found really interesting is apparently government, the NRA, it is our understanding, and again, this was on the Mall Road, literally, has said to him that they would rebuild his fence. Now imagine this man has been a terror on wheels for 3 years to his neighbors, has blocked a rightful accessway and easement, prevented the NRA on Friday from doing their job, delaying them from doing their job, which would have cost government money. And then we're going to turn around now as the government, aka the people of the Cayman Islands, who are going to pay for this because coming out of the public purse, and the wall that they had to knock down for him, they are going to build that wall back in front of his house. So now it'll run parallel, yes, to the road. And we're going to pay that. We're going to pay for that. Taxpayers' money is actually going to pay to have that done. So you can imagine how ludicrous this is, right? But I'm sure they just did it to try to keep some measure of peace with this guy because he has nothing better to do. Trust me. Okay, so Morna, thanks again for tuning in. Deline, good night. Good evening to you. Ja, welcome to the program. Hi. Myra, sorry. Thanks for tuning as well. So let's just keep it moving. We've had enough of Mr. Mendoza. Sorry. There was lots of things, like I said, happening in the news. So last week, one of the topics that I would have definitely discussed had there been a show last week was this article about this young lady. Now, this article went viral on our page as well as on the actual website. So we ran a story that this young lady had been arrested and charged and was in court for stealing $400 from her employer, which just happened to have been Price Right. So a lot of people, apparently she's got friends. That's all I can tell you. And a lot of her friends seem very, very interested, invested in this story. So the story went up, and sometimes I would say the best thing to do is if you end up on the Mall Road because you've been arrested or you are on the wrong side of the law, probably the best thing for you to do is just to keep a low profile. But instead, what these people did, her friends and family, they got on the article and they started cursing and going on and, calling people names and having this and that to say. The story was a 2-paragraph story. It had over 4,000 views, looks like, on the website. It was shared 532 times, which I must tell you is actually a lot of shares for a story on the website, because I think the only other one that had that many was the Jason Howard story. When people are very, very interested in something, they tend to share it a lot. So if you've been to our page recently, you can see the page was redone a few months ago, and now you have the ability to share it, via WhatsApp. You can share it to Facebook, you can share it on Twitter. So you've got a couple different share options. You've got Pinterest and LinkedIn and stuff as well, right? So this has been shared 532 times. So essentially, people were obviously interested in the story. Like I said, it's only 2 paragraphs long, and it just says that this lady, Daria Lynn, I guess is how she pronounces it, Colonel Benkstrom, 32 years old, appeared in court for sentencing on Friday. This was actually last week, Thursday, I think it was. So, we go to court some days we don't. We look at the court files, we see what's going on, we try to keep you guys, interested in court happenings. We pretty much report. There's no set rule on what we report. We try to report as much as we can. But knowing that we have limited staff, obviously, that's not always possible. So this story was kind of interesting because, number one, it was from an employer. So employer thefts, that's always a breach of trust, and the court, the judges and the magistrates tend to take a very heavy hand with those types of cases. She's not yet been sentenced, so we'll see what sort of sentencing she gets. It was a situation where she basically did something funny with the return of a TV. And instead of the $400, the TV is worth $399.99. So instead of that money going back into Foster's till as a return, she ended up taking it for her own personal use and pocketing it. Now, it's a stupid thing to do. Let's just be completely honest. Everybody, when somebody commits a crime, they want to say, oh, it's a mistake. When I pull up this situation, there's another story that just came up with Nadia Powery on her Facebook page. She stole over $400,000. Here's the thing. You're a thief, whether it's $400, $4,000, or $400,000. If you steal from other people and it's not your money, you're a thief. Simple as that. And this young lady, I do not personally know her, but she is a thief. Now, when you steal from people, or you sell cocaine, or you do whatever, and you end up in court, you've been found guilty, you've pled guilty, whatever the situation is that really to be termed and considered a mistake? I find it very ironic that when someone is liked, oh, they're popular, they're so-and-so's sister, they're the party girl, everybody likes them, we can make all sorts of convenient excuses. And we saw this exact same argument being used for Mr. Marin. What's his first name again? Oh God, the one that just got out of jail recently. He was incarcerated. Hold on one second, I'll tell you. He was incarcerated in the States for some cocaine conspiracy case. Bryce Marin. Same thing with Bryce. Listen, what Bryce did was not a mistake. He made a conscious decision, despite making allegedly $12,000 per month in a company, in his family business. Bryce decided that he wanted to make even more money and traffic in cocaine, money laundering, whatever, and he got caught. Simple. It's not a mistake. A mistake is when you accidentally do something. A mistake is when there's no premeditation, right? It was an error. It was whatever. You may call this a lapse in judgment. That would be a much more appropriate thing to call this. But it's not a mistake. She did something that was wrong. And now penalties and repercussions will flow from that. One of the repercussions in this day and age is that, yes, you will end up in the newspaper. Whether it's Cayman Mall Road, the Compass carries all of these news stories. Cayman News Service carries news stories as well. And no one single media carries every single story that's out there. There's no capacity for that. So we report as much as we can based on our staffing availability. There's some days we go to court. There are other days that we're not able to make it, but we monitor the court list and update people and provide people with information where we can. So no one chose to highlight this case or to put this case in the news because we know her or because we have any beef with her. She seems like a nice enough lady. I would see her all the time when I went to Price Right for the short amount of time that she's working there. I had absolutely no issues with her. And there was another young lady who was in here for something with a dog attacking someone. Everyone's like, oh, because she posted something on your page. Let's just be real here. She posted something on her page. That's her opinion. If we had an issue with her, we would have blocked her from the page. We didn't. Everyone is entitled to their opinion on CMR's page if you do it in a respectful manner. The second you get on there, start threatening people, calling people names, using all this profanity, those are the things that get you blocked. You don't get blocked just because you have a different opinion. And I want people to really try to comprehend this. That's not why people are blocked on CMR's page. You get blocked because you threaten people. So what happened in this particular case? Like I said, this young lady has a lot of family members and a lot of friends that apparently have her back. They have been calling people who commented on the original post and threatening them, WhatsApping them, sending all kind of messages about, oh, I'm going to talk to your mom. I don't really know what sense that will be, but apparently adults don't have an opinion because their parents might have something to say about it. I mean, it is just absolutely ridiculous. So I received multiple complaints from different people that that she and her family and friends and whatever were actually contacting others and, making threats and, who she family to on in Honduras and what they're going to do to people. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. It's one of the few cases that I've seen where people actually got phone calls to say, don't comment on this story, take your comment down. And people felt harassed by this. And I don't want people to feel like, they can't come on CMR and have a voice and they can't have anything to say. That's wrong. So whoever this young lady is and her sisters and cousins and friends and whoever these people were who were harassing people, you are wrong for taking that approach. If someone wants to call her a thief, that's not defamation of character. She is a thief. The day that this was reported, she was there for sentencing. It's been postponed. So she has admitted to stealing money. And when you steal money, that makes you a thief. That's not a debate. And how people feel about someone who steals and how people feel about a thief, that's on them. You can't control what someone says when you've done something like this. So one of the consequences of her actions is that people will look at her now and say, wow, there goes that thief. And people have a right to do that, right? So all of us, we do things that are wrong, including myself. No one is perfect. And when we do things wrong, there are consequences to our actions. One of the consequences in this day and age is that you may actually end up on a social media news website, such as CMR, such as Cayman News Service, such as The Compass. When Cayman 27 was around, they had people in court covering stuff all the time. Now, we posted a second post to say we thought, number one, the threats, etc., really needed to stop. And it was so ironic that this young lady, because there are people in the comment who were just like, oh, well, you don't know why she stole. Maybe she was in need, blah, blah, blah. Listen, if you're really in need, we have seen evidence of this young lady up until Friday out having a good time. That doesn't look like someone who was in need of $400. And every single person who had the audacity to get on CMR's social media platforms, whether it was our Facebook page or Instagram, and try to defend this young lady's actions about, oh, you don't know what was going on in her life and what needs she has and blah, blah, blah. If each one of you had given her just $25, which would have been the equivalent of lunch money for most of us, she would not have needed to steal $400 because it was never a need. So all of you who are so incredibly supportive of her need to reach out to her and figure out, why is it that you're stealing? Now, she's in court for this one instance, but our very reliable sources indicate this is not her first time at the rodeo. So when you start trying to create a certain narrative, a certain story, to make this person look a certain way. Oh, poor her. Let's not judge her because we don't know. Maybe she's in need. She's a single mother. She's this, she's that. Really? Don't force us to get the cold, hard facts off of the mall road, which is that every opportunity this woman gets, she's out there living her best life. She's in Cotton Club. She's in the clubs. She's hanging out. She's dressed to the nines. I don't see no child looking like they're hungry to me. So don't bring that storyline to us if it's not true, because we're going to get to the bottom of it. And that's where I have an issue with people trying to defend wrong behavior. Oftentimes, it is better to just keep your mouth shut than to have something to say that is completely inaccurate and a bold-faced lie, essentially. You can't excuse and you can't lie yourself out of bad behavior. And then people thought, well, this doesn't have anything to do, like, why are you talking about her lifestyle? The reason why that second post was put up, because there were those of you who were trying to defend her behavior. And in defense of her behavior, you were making comments that simply made absolutely no sense whatsoever. And there was tons of evidence, even on her social media, her own social media platforms, sorry, to prove that this was not a person in need of $400. The sad thing is, was it worth the $400? Was it worth stealing $400 so that you could ruin your name and then ruin your reputation? No employer wants someone who's going to steal from them, whether it's $1 or not. Employers who, it doesn't matter who they are, every single time they have to deal with a theft, that there's a trickle-down effect from that. There's security measures that they have in place, but we all pay the price for people who steal. Prices go up to make sure that they have the latest security cameras because they can't trust people who are working as cashiers, right? There's a cost of doing business, and part of that cost of doing business is the more you have security breaches, the more money you have to spend, the more you're going to pass those prices on to consumers. It's just part of doing business. And it's not fair. Everybody's like, oh, well, it's just the Fosters. They have money and they're not paying people. Listen, she didn't have to take the job at the grocery store. I understand her father has worked there at the Strand for years without any issues whatsoever. If it's a situation, sorry, where, she felt like they were underpaying her, your response to that isn't to steal from other people. Your response to that is maybe you go to school and educate yourself and get certain skills so that you can get a better paying job. Like I said, I don't know anything about this young lady, but what is she qualified to do? If she was qualified to do more than being a cashier, she wouldn't have likely have been sitting there being a cashier. So your response to, oh, I'm being underpaid, isn't that you just turn around and steal from your employer. That's not right. And then those people who attempted to defend her behavior and to defend her need to check themselves, because a lot of them, and this is where Cayman is such a small place, a lot of those same people, I had people instant messaging me saying, oh, well, no wonder she's being defended by so-and-so because that person's a thief too. And here's who they stole from and blah, blah, blah. It's just too bad that CMR wasn't around when they stole. So don't expose your own behind trying to protect a thief. Just keep your mouth shut is what I would recommend. There's certain things you just cannot defend. You can say, you know what, she's a nice person and she did something stupid. Maybe. But the word in the street is she's doing a lot of somethings, plural, stupid, because this is not an isolated incident. So instead of wasting your time trying to attack people and keep people quiet about this young lady, your time would be much better spent counseling her and talking to her and explaining to her that, honey, yes, you are a young mother and your actions will impact your child. Your inability to get a job because you stole will impact your child. If you go out there and people have you labeled as a thief, I mean, I don't know how old your child is, but at some point, there might be a trickle-down impact, and your child may be impacted by that as well. That's what you guys needed to be doing, having some serious one-to-one heartfelt conversations with this young lady and trying to get her life back on track. All right, folks, so let's continue with some of your comments. Juanita says, stupid idea for her to steal. Absolutely. Mandy calling out her friend Michael, who's obviously in the program. And Michael says, God, you just exposed me. So Michael is enjoying the program, I guess. I'm Vanessa. Hello. Good evening. How are you? Shalene says, pretty thief. And listen, she's obviously a good looking young lady. You know, beauty has nothing to do with what's on the inside. We see that every single day. We see beautiful people who are some of the nastiest people in the world. You know, some beautiful people will do anything. They're thieves, they're liars, or whatever. But you know, it's sad because she is beautiful, and I'm sure there's so much that she probably had going for her in life that, you know, now those opportunities may be gone because of a stupid decision. El Compa says, hello, everyone. Vanessa says, true, Sandy. Shalene says, so sad. Such a beautiful, bright face young lady chose to steal. If you in need, ask for help. Don't go stealing. And I agree with this because, listen, we have all been in a financial pickle, predicament, whatever you want to call it. Things get tight. We know how expensive it is to live here in Cayman. I'm sure every single one of us could have thought of a time or an opportunity when we needed a few extra dollars to try to meet our bills. Now, there are those of us who have lived beyond our means, and hey, that includes me. There were times that I would sit down and say, oh my God, why am I making these purchases, spending this money, when I know you've only got so much as disposable income? So when you do that, a couple of things happen. Either your bills don't get paid and you get behind on your bills, and then you've got to play catch up before something gets turned off, before CUC comes and flick, turns off the light, your water get turned off or whatever. So you've got to learn money management skills, right? That's a personal thing that a lot of us have to grow into, because if we didn't learn it as young people, especially seeing our parents not necessarily doing it, we don't know how to do it. So we learn by trial and error. So we screw up, we get it wrong. But that still does not justify your behavior if you go out and steal from someone. Go and borrow from your friends. I mean, everybody should at least have one or two friends that they can say, hey, can I borrow $100, $50, whatever. But you can't be living this highfalutin lifestyle and, you know, living lavishly, going out, because every single time you go out, even if you figure, okay, I'm going to go out and I've got friends who are going to buy me a drink. Okay, so I won't have to worry about my drink. You still got to get dressed up, and you know how you young people are. You can't wear the same pair of shoes twice. You got to get your hair done. You got to get makeup done. You got to do this. You got to have a nice outfit. All of those things take money for you to be able to put together and pull it together. And that's my point. Don't be trying to live this fly lifestyle. And every community has it. It's like different depending on, you know, where you're at in the community. But some communities, it's called the ghetto fabulous lifestyle, where they're all about dressing, got all the fake hair, the weave, the this, the that, the flashy car, and they can't pay their bills. They don't have a house. They don't have a garage to put the car in, a house to park it next to, none of that stuff, because they're trying to maintain a certain image. In the hip hop community, this could be a whole other discussion, but it's all about image, and it's trying to look a certain way, you know, because you're trying to impress other people. And the joke of the matter is the people that you're trying to impress normally don't care anything about you. They don't care. Everybody's playing this one-upmanship game. Oh, I want to look better than the next person. It doesn't make any sense. You're not gaining anything from it. You're not going to gain any real friends from the situation. And if anything, you're losing money, energy, resources trying to keep up, and it makes absolutely no sense at all. But you know, we all have to live and learn about our priorities and what's going to work for us and what isn't. But when someone does wrong, this community, especially as small as we are, is not in the business of cloaking them up for their wrongdoing. And there are people who are sending not just sideways threats, but they were actually sending legit threats like, oh, you better be happy you're not Honduras and this and that. No. We can't tolerate that kind of thing. Cayman is not Honduras for a reason. Cayman is not Jamaica for a reason. That's not the sort of thing in how we live in this country. People have been able to express themselves about whatever without threat of violence. And yes, we're glad that we don't live certain places in the world, because in those countries, you don't have a voice. You would be scared to say anything because somebody, a brother, a cousin, whatever, would come and do something to you. And that's ridiculous. But don't bring that mentality here. That's not what we need to be importing into the Cayman Islands. All right, let's get to some of your comments. I see them coming in fast and furious now. So Tyrone says, Sandra, the problem is a lot of people is facing Cayman is because they're making per, say, $2,000 a month, but want to live a $5,000 lifestyle. So most people turn to crime. And you know what, Tyrone? Time and time again, I agree with you. I think this is precisely what is happening. Just today, I heard of another young lady, and we're going to get some more details on this, who was working at a local law firm and was fired from her job on Friday for stealing from her coworkers. Stealing from her coworkers, going into their handbags and their desk drawers and stealing from her coworkers. Can you believe it? And this same young lady has a sister who's also tied up in the court system now for stealing like $100,000 from a local employer as well. At what point does this foolishness stop? It's like, come on, guys. And unfortunately, it's so many of our young ladies, like the men have their own kind of issues and whatever, but I find that a lot of the young ladies are turning to stealing. And these are young ladies who are mothers. And so when they get sent to Northward or Fairbanks or whatever we're calling it these days, their children will be directly impacted by their actions. And to me, that's a sad indictment on them. Think about your children, if nothing else. If you want to steal $400, just pause for a minute and go, okay, what are the consequences of this? What's going to happen to my children if I get sent to jail? Who's going to take care of your children? That's going to fall on your poor family who can't afford it? Come on. Alina says it's sad. For that reason, people speak badly about Latinas in general. And you know what, Alina? This isn't a Latina issue. This isn't a Jamaican issue. This is a Caymanan issue. Thieves and people who do this sort of thing run the gamut. I see it every nationality, every, sector of the community. Even people who you think have money and you're like, why are they even stealing? Like, it doesn't make any sense. But like Tyrone said, even if they're making $10,000 a month, they want more. It's never enough. And that attitude of it never being enough forces them to continue to want more, want more, want more. And your paycheck, whatever it is, can only be so much. Next thing you know, you're looking for outside means and ways in which to steal. Dolores says, just the devil and live above her need. Tyrone, you can put out the Pro-Collect International's offering financial counseling free for the month of October. So Tyrone has a company called Pro-Collect. They do debt collection and apparently financial counseling as well. So if you guys are in need of that, please reach out to them. It's certainly better than the alternative, which is stealing, ruining your name, and get putting in jail. Shalene says facts, priorities not in order. Marcus says sorry, but won't it have been better to redirect her energy to a different department without all this? Wouldn't it have been better to direct her energy? Okay, I'm not sure I quite get that one, Marcus, but thank you for the comment. Primrose says exactly, Sandra. Stuart, champagne lifestyle on a lemonade budget. It's true. Dolores, my grandmother always said, don't worry what people do. Sorry. Don't worry what people say about you. What you wear, just make sure you are clean. And that is so true, Dolores. My aunt, God bless her. She is now deceased for a couple of years, but she used to say the same thing to me all the time. And she actually lived a very comfortable life. She lived to be in her mid-80s. But she would always say to me, you don't have to go out there and explain anything to anyone because people never know. Sometimes people look at you, they make assumptions about your lifestyle, and those assumptions may or may not be correct, but they don't know how you have what you have or how you've gotten what you've gotten. And she said, the same way that they don't know, you must remember that you can look at them and you don't know. So you don't know how hard they work. You don't know if in the middle of the night they're up working, burning the midnight oil, working 2-3 jobs. You don't know, if they are stealing for it, if they're prostituting for it, whatever. So she's like, never look at someone and be jealous of what they have, sorry, or begrudge them in any way, because the truth of the matter is you really don't know how they got it. And so not knowing that, what you need to do is focus on yourself and worry about how you have what you have and trying to do the right thing and trying to work hard. And Dolores, she used to say the exact same thing. She's like, listen, if you have to get up every single day and wear the very same drawers, because my aunt was a very straight shooter. She's like, if you have to wear the same drawers every day, you don't make that anybody's business but your own. But you know what? You wash it. You make sure it's clean. You make sure you're clean. You're presentable. And that's all that matters. It doesn't matter how fancy your stuff is. You don't need any labels. You don't need to have a million of this, a million shoes, a million handbags. None of that stuff matters. You just make sure you are clean. Your clothes are clean. You're presentable. Carry yourself with personal standards, personal hygiene standards, but don't feel like you have to live up to certain people's expectations, because those people, number one, don't pay your bills and they don't know who you are. They don't know anything about you. So don't let their false, expectations, oftentimes something they've made up in their own head, somehow impact your decisions and the things that you have to do. So stop trying to live this fabulous lifestyle that pushes you to be feeling like, you have to go out all the time and you have to look a certain way or wear certain things or drive a certain car, sorry, just to impress people that honestly could probably care less at the end of the day, right? Let's just be fair. So Katie says, that's right, Sandra, this has nothing to do with nationality. Trust me, I see it across the spectrum. Yareli says, JJ Eden, wow, she reached CMR live. JJ did the little movie emoji action. Sora, good evening, and thank you for tuning in. All right, folks, so let's move on from this young lady. There's really not much more I can say about her situation. We will keep you guys updated on her case. We'll find out. She's back October I think it's the 9th or the 10th for sentencing. We will hear, more about her sentencing once it becomes available. And of course, we update, if you guys go into the stories, we do update them as they happen. So you guys remember some months ago, there was another case with a wannabe beautician who was injecting people with a substance. To this day, the authorities are not really sure what that substance was. They think it might be silicone. So it turns out that 2 women in particular, and there were actually more than 2 women, had a reaction to the substance. So yesterday, she finally got sentenced to 9 months, but she's actually going to be serving only 4 because of the police and their slackness. But, we update these stories is my point. So please go check out the updated story. You can have a look there. We have about 10 minutes left in the program. And what I would like to do now is discuss another story that was really, really shocking, that made the news on our site. I think it was, today is Tuesday. This would have been Sunday that this story went up. So please go to the website. There's different sections. So this particular one was an editorial piece. And I'm going to just pull it up here because I think it's important. So it's under the section called opinion. I do think it's important to to discuss some of these things. So this is Minister Seymour. Most of you guys will know who he is. He's a representative for the district of Bodden Town. Yes, Shalene, she only got 9 months and will only serve a mere fraction of that because the judge cut it down to 5 months, and probably with good behavior and everything that they tag on, should probably serve more like 2.5 months, 3 months at the max. And then they have been instructed to see about deporting her. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, let's move on to Mr. Seymour. So Mr. Seymour, which let me say for the record, Mr. Seymour is suing Cayman Mall Road, and that has nothing to do with why this article was done, but it does have everything to do with why he approached, apparently, the person that he approached. So the facts are, and I'm going to put this link in the, I'll put this link in here so you guys can have an opportunity to read it in case you missed it, because I know the Facebook page was acting up again, where a lot of stuff simply wasn't showing up on the Facebook feed. But Mr. Seymour apparently is suing us because he says that we were talking about him with this child molestation case in Bodden Town. We've never mentioned Mr. Seymour's name. In fact, I'm pretty sure that we never even said that the MLA was from Bodden Town. We just said that the incident allegedly had occurred in Bodden Town. The police have since come back and said that that incident never took place. So you know we've discussed that at length. So Mrs. Seymour, and I'm going to say allegedly, but there are witnesses to this, so I don't have any qualms about this story being true. We've attached in the story the actual police report. So he actually went up to someone who I know the person at this under 17 football match and said to them, oh, you know, I know you and Sandra are talking about me and gossiping about me, and I'm going to fuck you up. Excuse my language, but he's a minister, and this is what he said. So surely if the minister at a youth event can make that kind of a comment, it's okay if I say it on Facebook Live. But anyway, I'm going to F you up, and I'm going to do this, and you better watch yourself, watch what you're saying, get your facts straight. And he just went on, and he basically threatened this guy and said, you know, if you think you're this and that, and if you come to Bodden Town, this wouldn't go so, and what I would do for you, and blah, blah, blah. So, okay. First of all, there's a couple things here that is wrong with this. The individual filed a police report. Our sources also indicate that they contacted the ministry about this, and not the ministry, but the what's his name? The Premier, Alden McLaughlin. The government has done nothing about this. They didn't even bother, as is really typical Premier Alden McLaughlin response. He doesn't bother to even respond, to acknowledge your correspondence, to acknowledge your email, nothing. His thing was just ignore it. And they think by ignoring stuff, it's going to go away, apparently. So the police have it on record. If you read the police report, what the complainant was saying was, listen, I just want to make sure that there's a record of this. In the event that something happens to me, heaven forbid, the first person you guys need to go to as a person of interest, as a suspect, would be Minister Seymour and his gang of people. Now, he likes to travel around with people, from what I understand. I don't personally know Mr. Seymour on any level whatsoever, and I want to make this very clear. I have no issues with Dwayne Seymour. But he seems to have taken on me, claiming that I have an issue with him, which is funny. And as a result of that, he feels like he can go around threatening people and saying things like, you know, oh, he knows that we have something against him and he's going to fuck somebody up. Now, let me be very, very clear. Mr. Seymour has not approached me in any way, shape, or form. And I would hope he would have a little bit better sense than to do that. I would really hope that as a minister, your behavior would be reflective of the fact that you are a minister in this country. You should be carrying yourself. You look good in that picture, Dwayne Seymour. You look professional, but you're not carrying yourself in a professional manner. When you do something like this, it makes us all look bad, and it makes us all look stupid. You're paranoid. Paranoia and politics don't go well together at all. No one has sat down, I can honestly say this, and had any sort of meaningful conversation about you where I was there. I've never sat down with this person that you went and threatened and had any meaningful discussion about Dwayne Seymour. I sit down with this person on a regular basis and we talk politics and whatever, but if I really want to be honest with you, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm looking at his picture in the eye as I'm talking to him, but I know he's not here. But Minister Seymour, I know you'll get this message. When it comes to politicians that we're interested in, that we find interesting and we want to talk about, you're at the bottom of the totem pole. And I'm not trying to insult you. I'm just trying to be honest. You're just not all of that interesting. And you haven't done anything with your ministry that we're like, oh, let's talk about him. So we haven't had any discussions about you. So in this editorial, when I said that you're paranoid, I'm 100% serious. You really are paranoid. You have a lack of confidence that is an issue on you that now you're projecting on other people and you're threatening other people as a result of that. You need to check yourself because that's not cool. Not only is it not cool, but the last time I checked, even threatening someone in the way in which you did in front of eyewitnesses, that is against the law. That's called assault. And you could have been charged by the police for that. And if I were this individual, instead of just filing a police report saying, oh, I just want a record of it, I would have asked for you to have been charged because there were sufficient witnesses there. Even people recorded it. So there was enough evidence that the police had done their job. They could have charged you. Mind you, you've been charged before and you got off when you were in an altercation with your ex-wife's boyfriend. Everybody knows these things. Cayman is too small to pretend like we're not in the know. So you can't go around pretending like you're a bully and talking about you're going to fuck people up, especially when you're a government minister. When the people have elected you to represent them, that's just not a good look. The other concern is this whole concept of garrison-style politics. And there's a quote here that I want you guys to check out that says, politicians remain in power although they violate the laws. This is a dangerous precedent to be setting. When someone tells you that you can't enter their district, and we did have this conversation in relation to one man, one vote, because a lot of people are saying this is the danger of the whole one man, one vote thing, because you only have 600-700 people, a block of people who are voting for you. It's much easier to control 600 or 700 people in a particular area. In fact, for some people that could represent your family if it's like, you know, a certain area of the island. And so you have people who can get into this whole garrison politics where, oh, if you come into my section of Bodden Town, my section of West Bay, my section of Georgetown, I'm going to do this to you. I'm going to beat you up. I'm going to do that, whatever. I have my posse. I have my gang of friends that I go around with. What are we saying here? What message are we teaching our young people? When we can go to one of their events, the same young people that we're saying, learn conflict resolution, talk about your feelings, talk about your emotions, talk it through. Don't turn to violence as a way to, to resolve your issues. How can we say that on the one hand, speaking out of one side of our mouths, but then on the other hand, we are going to show them at an event that we will get in somebody's face and we will threaten them and we will beat them up? What if this person that he approached and went up to was the kind of person who was going to be like, yeah, come on, you want to fuck me up? Come on, let's do it. And then all of a sudden, what was going to happen? A minister was going to get into a fight? I mean, the last fight that he got into, he was in LA, but he wasn't a minister at the time, right? This is just going off of my recollection. This was when it happened at Bamboo. So now you're a minister and you're going to beat somebody up. You're going to throw down. Like, what the hell? It's low. It's not something that I would expect from a government minister or even a government MLA. It speaks horribly to some bigger issues that we have in this country and that we have in this community. And, you know, in all fairness to Mr. Seymour, when we reached out to him via his lawyers, because he wouldn't have anything to say directly, his lawyer was kind of like, oh, he's not even going to comment on this. This is a non-issue. This happened a month ago. Who cares? He saw the person since then and said hi. It's no big deal. Right. because once again, we come back to this whole thing about no responsibility. No one's going to hold you accountable. But Mrs. Seymour, you will be held accountable.